to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky Duraeus. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky Duraeus, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Monday Night Raw from June 26th, 2023. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on the Raw review. Of course, it is the Go Home Raw before this Saturday's Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming to us from the O2 Arena in London, England. I'm telling you guys, the crowd in London is going to be absolutely insane for what they are about to see, of course, as we have the Bloodline Civil War. The Bloodline is imploding as Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa team up to take on the Usos in what I think is going to be an absolutely just memorable, just absolute, just bombastic. I don't even know what to explain, but like honestly, it's going to be a fantastic night. It's going to be a fantastic match. Honestly, Money in the Bank is really going to, in my opinion, be a really good show. You know, some of the matches on the card I'm not really that excited for, but just because of the fact that the show is in the UK, I know for a fact WWE is definitely going to really step up their game. And I'm going to be honest, man, the last few months of WWE television, I wasn't really that too, excited about what was going on. Really, the only thing that I have been praising WWE for most of these weeks were really their pay-per-views. Every time when WWE has a pay-per-view, they always knock it out of the park, in my opinion. But what are my thoughts on this Raw show? I thought there were good aspects of the show that I liked, and there were some other things that I did not like on the show. And as you guys all know, the things that I did not like on the show were things that I just did not give a single shit about. And again, that is a common occurrence that I have with Monday Night Raw. Since the show is 3 hours, I always have, I always see things that I just either A, just don't care about, and B, I always just look at the phone and just always check what time is it, because if you really think about it, man, that 9 to 10 hour to me is the longest hour, and sometimes it can be that, maybe 10 to 11 hour. It's either the second or third hour that really just gets me, okay, I don't give a single shit about what's going on. But I will say, some of the matches that we had on the show were great. Of course, we had Gunther versus Sami Zayn. I thought that match was phenomenal. Even though it wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, I thought still the match was fantastic. Of course, we had Gunther versus Kevin Owens the previous week. I believe it was the previous week. We also had, of course, Carmelo Hayes, the NXT champion, taking on the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, Finn Balor. A lot of discourse, a lot of debating whether or not Carmelo Hayes losing was the right decision to make. I mean, if you really think about it, Finn Balor is the number one contender, so it made total sense for him to win the match, because if Finn Balor lost, he honestly, would have looked weak in a match that he was already going to be losing. But I'll talk about that later on. Of course, Rhea Ripley and Dominik opened the show. Dominik, being the dumbass he is, wrestled Akira Tozowa in a relatively short match. We had Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Ricochet. We also had Ronda Rousey taking on Raquel Rodriguez, a match that nobody cared about whatsoever. Again, the tag team title scene is just completely irrelevant in WWE, in my opinion. We also had Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest. So there were some aspects of the show that I did like, but at the same time, there was other aspects of the show that I didn't like. Of course, all these reports about Vince McMahon changing things last minute. I mean, if you guys watched SmackDown this past Friday, clearly the show wasn't as good as, everybody usually thinks SmackDown has to be. Because if you really think about it, I've always praised SmackDown for most weeks, not every week, most weeks. But if you really think about it, SmackDown is kind of a good show because of the whole Bloodline stuff that's going on and really nothing else. But nonetheless, I'll talk about Vince McMahon, of course, this week on the main show, which is the WrestleHavoc Podcast, because I have a lot to say on Vince McMahon and all the other stuff going on in the realm of World Wrestling Entertainment. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding Monday Night Raw, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, if you guys had missed it, my AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door review is up on the channel. I talk about Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega delivering an absolute spectacle at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It was a phenomenal match for Forbidden Door. We also had Bryan Danielson taking on Kazuchika Okada. If you really compare the two matches, clearly Ospreay and Omega was the better of the two matches. But nonetheless, I thought it was a fantastic show, and easily this year's Forbidden Door topped last year's. Also, the AEW Collision review is up on the channel. I talk about Bullet Club Gold. Of course, it is the final Collision before AEW Forbidden Door, and we talk about Bullet Club Gold and the Guns taking on CMFTR and Ricky Starks. It was a very good Collision show, but the ratings for Collision were actually not that good. It was actually a huge drop from the first episode of Collision, which was honestly expected, but I don't know, man. Even though I thought the show was good, we can't ignore the rating that came out for the show. But overall, I thought Collision was great. But if you guys haven't checked out my Collision review, the links of both the Forbidden Door and Collision review will be in the link in the description below. All right. We got Rhea Ripley and Dominik Mysterio opening the show. They are in the ring. Dominik has the mic. Of course, every time when Dominik has the mic, there's a slew of boos by the crowd. You can tell, man. Everybody just does not like Dominik. Look, and I stated this before, but Dominik is such a heat magnet. He's so good at just generating heat. But at the end of the day, we're not going to compare this man to MJF. That's just that's not even a fair comparison to make. You compare, people only compare both MJF and Dominik Mysterio just by the level of heat that they generate. Meanwhile, they don't compare, mic skills, in-ring skills. I would assume MJF and Dominik could be on par with one another. I mean, slightly MJF is better than Dominik in the ring, but if you talk about mic skills, MJF completely would destroy Dominik on the mic. But still, that does not deny the fact that Dominik is an absolute heat magnet. But I also state the question, if this were any other heel that turned on their father, they would have gotten the exact same reaction that Dominik Mysterio would have gotten. Welcome to Monday, and then we got a slew of boos. Dominik gets pissed off, and then Rhea gets the mic, and she says, "Cody Rhodes, you want to boo her? You're just a wannabe and a loser." His momentum has been slowing down, and at Money in the Bank, Dominik will end him, and then all of a sudden, Cody Rhodes comes out. Cody's in the ring, Dom is on the apron, and then Dom thinks he knows what he's trying to do. He thinks he would have been special, and this is what you need to do. Savannah, Georgia, welcome to Monday Night Raw. I don't know why, man. I do not like when WWE does that. They would always have a wrestler, and this was a common thing when Vince McMahon was in charge. Like, they would always have a wrestler, open the show, and the first thing that they would say is, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw." And I'm like, oh, my God, that is the most cringeworthy shit I've ever heard. I don't know why. I just do not like it. Dominik gets pissed off. And he says, "Cody, you can try to bully her Dom. That's what Rhea Ripley stated. But Dom is a very dangerous man. We all know because he's from the streets and he did time in prison." At Money in the Bank, says Dom, and we get a slew of boos. Dom says at Money in the Bank he will show exactly how dangerous he is. Cody then replies, "Thank you for the education." Dom, of course, is proven rather dangerous. He is a smart guy. Go ahead. How should you feel? Because those who mind don't matter because those who matter don't mind. You know who said that? The Cat in the Hat. He's quoting a children's book because that's what he is. He is a scared little boy. And then Dominik and Rhea Ripley retreat. Then Cody says, "Dom, come on. Damian Priest isn't running from him. Why are you running? Show me something." Dom, "Hey, I'm right here. He will give you a free shot. I will give you a free shot. Let's do this right here, right now." And then Dominik walks back up into the ring. Of course, he is up on the apron. And then Dominik is like, "Fuck this." And then he backs away. And then Cody says, "Okay, Dom, okay. I see you walking." Like he said, these cheap shots have been effective. But on Saturday, he's stepping on a different body of water. He wants to find out if he is half the man of what his father actually was. Or if he's mama's little boy. And the segment ends. I thought this was a great segment to open the show. I was not really that too keen on the idea of Dominik Mysterio taking on Cody Rhodes, but I will say the biggest positive that I can give you guys for Dominik Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes is, number one, the level of heat that he will get in London, and just the reaction if Dominik beats Cody Rhodes, because at the end of the day, the only person that can benefit from a win in this match is Dominik Mysterio. But do I see Dominik winning the match? Possibly not. I do see some interference maybe during the match or maybe after the match with Brock Lesnar, because we all know the third match with Brock Lesnar is going to be happening, and most likely that match is going to be taking place at SummerSlam. So it all depends. Do I think Dominik, should win the match? Absolutely. I think Dominik makes total sense, and it can only elevate his stock further, and also the level of heat that he will get in a crowd like London. I mean, it's a kind of a win-win if you really think about it. But have I been invested in this whole feud between Dominik and Cody Rhodes? Absolutely not. I just did not care whatsoever from what I was seeing. I like the Dominik Mysterio heat, but I feel like sometimes, you tend to overdo things a little bit, and we kind of get the idea already. Now we kind of need to go full forward with Judgment Day as an unstoppable faction, which I think they are on the verge of doing, especially with Finn Balor taking on Seth Rollins. I mean, Seth Rollins most likely is going to retain the title. It'd be really stupid for Seth Rollins to lose the title very early on in his run. But if you think about it, there's an ongoing story with Judgment Day, and it would make total sense for Balor to have the title. But I'll talk about that later on when I go through Money in the Bank. But overall, this was not a bad segment to open up Raw. We had Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Ricochet. I thought this was a great match. For the amount of time that they had, I thought it was pretty good. We get repeated shots by Shinsuke. Shinsuke is in control. He drives his knee on Ricochet, and then we get a cover and a near fall. We then get a kick blocked by Shinsuke, and then Shinsuke blocks the head scissors. And then we get a spinning kick by Ricochet, and then he goes for the axe kick after that. He proceeds to pick up Shinsuke, and then he applies the sleeper. Ricochet then escapes. Shinsuke then gets taken to the crowd, and then he applies the sleeper on Ricochet hanging on the ropes. Ricochet goes for the enziguri, and then both men knock each other down with both hitting each other with a big boot. Then we get an enziguri by Ricochet on Bronson Reed, who was on the outside just watching this match next to the commentary table. We get a kick on Bronson by Shinsuke, and then he takes Ricochet back into the ring. We get a baseball dropkick on Reed by Ricochet, and then we get a kick by Shinsuke. Bronson goes onto the apron, and then the referee bans Bronson Reed. Shinsuke drives his elbows on Ricochet, and then we get a boot by Ricochet. We then get a springboard clothesline by Ricochet, and then we get a back elbow by Ricochet. We then get a running shooting star press by Ricochet. We get a cover and a near fall. Then we get a springboard moonsault by Ricochet, countered when Shinsuke gets the knees up. That looked pretty fucking dope. Then he drives his knee on Ricochet. He slams Ricochet face first to the mat. He proceeds to miss the Kinshasa. Ricochet ends up going for the recoil, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Ricochet goes to the top, and then we get a high kick by Shinsuke, and then he drives his knee onto the midsection. Ricochet then counters the Kinshasa, and then we get a drop down by Shinsuke. Or I should say Ricochet drops down Shinsuke. He goes to the top. Then Ricochet goes for the shooting star, and we get a cover, and Ricochet beats Shinsuke Nakamura clean dead center in the ring. So this is kind of a little mini feud that Shinsuke Nakamura and Ricochet are having. Is it anything impactful, and does it provide any significant importance on the show? No. Of course, both men are going to be involved in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Are both of these men going to be winning this match? Absolutely not. There's no way Ricochet is going to be winning this match, and there is no way Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be winning this match. Just absolutely no way. The only two people that I see winning the match are LA Knight and Logan Paul. And one of those two men, is the only one, are the only one that I actually want to win, and that is LA Knight. I don't think Logan Paul should win, even though if Logan Paul won, it would garner a lot of mainstream attention. But if you really think about it, if Logan Paul won, there is also an ongoing story. But at the same time, I just don't like the idea of Logan Paul, a guy that is not even on the roster like every week. He's not on television every week holding the Money in the Bank. I just do not like that idea. And honestly, I'd rather have a guy like LA Knight who's getting organically over with the audience to hold the Money in the Bank and maybe cash in on a guy like Seth Rollins, or maybe he could easily cash in on a mid-card title. Who knows? I mean, LA Knight is still on the SmackDown roster. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But, I mean, I think LA Knight is the most logical guy to win the match, and I think he'd have the briefcase for a long period of time. But is he going to cash in on a guy like Roman Reigns? Absolutely not. I think he's going to cash in on a guy like Seth Rollins, in my opinion. That's what I see going on. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens at Money in the Bank. We got a backstage interview with Matt Riddle. Talks about, he's asked if it's smart enough to challenge Gunther. And Riddle says his ankle is cool enough, and when he gets one-on-one, he will smash him. Then after that, Ludwig Kaiser comes in. It says last week he got exactly what he deserved to what he did to Giovanni Vinci. That's why he was not there on television. I completely forgot. Riddle then says he used those amateur skills to beat him, and then Kaiser says that will never happen again. Riddle then attacks him. Gunther then immediately boots Matt Riddle, and Gunther says challenge accepted, and then stomps onto the knee of Matt Riddle. This was a great little backstage segment. Of course, it's now official. We're going to be getting Matt Riddle versus Gunther for the Intercontinental title at Money in the Bank. I'm excited. I mean, it's pretty obvious, Gunther is not losing that title anytime soon, and Matt Riddle is nowhere near going to be winning the Intercontinental Championship. But I think by the end of that match, Matt Riddle will look so strong, especially in front of a crowd like London. I mean, a crowd like London will eat that shit up, man. They will eat a match like Gunther and Matt Riddle. Those guys are going to fucking tear the house down. But Matt Riddle's not going to be winning the Intercontinental title. We got a video package of Money in the Bank with WWE talking about their numbers and the history of the Money in the Bank. We all know WWE loves exaggerating their numbers. After that, we got Ronda Rousey versus Raquel Rodriguez, a match nobody cared about whatsoever. The match starts, they both lock up. Raquel shoves Ronda into the corner. Ronda goes for the knee strike, but then Rousey applies the guillotine. Raquel then picks her up. She hits a delayed vertical suplex, and then Ronda later on goes to the top. She applies an armbar on Raquel on the ropes. She picks up Raquel, and then Raquel escapes. We then get a shoulder tackle, and then she proceeds to pick up Ronda. Ronda escapes. Ronda rolls through, and then she applies the ankle lock. Raquel escapes, and then we get the armbar by Ronda once again. Raquel then picks her up and drives her down to the mat, and then we get a splash into the corner by Raquel. And then she proceeds to pick up Ronda, and then she ends up hitting the fall-away slam. Raquel then tries to go for the corkscrew elbow, but then Shayna drags Ronda out. Liv Morgan then takes out Shayna, but then later Ronda goes for the roll-up, and Ronda wins the match. Way to make Raquel Rodriguez look absolutely stupid. I mean, if you have Ronda Rousey, beat Raquel Rodriguez in like a short amount of time, really, what is the point of having this whole feud with Raquel and Liv taking on Ronda and Shayna? This match did nothing for me whatsoever. The tag team title scene, when it comes to the women's division, is completely irrelevant in WWE, in my opinion. We had a very well-produced video package with Finn Balor. And this was a fantastic video package. One thing that I will always praise WWE on is their fantastic production, of course, but their video packages, man. Like, they will fucking inform you with a lot of shit that you probably did not know about. If you're a new viewer, we got a video package right for you. That is what I absolutely love about WWE. This Finn Balor video package alone. Finn Balor did not even need to appear on the show, let alone even wrestle a match with Carmelo Hayes. This video package alone sold me on the match that Finn Balor is going to be having with Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. Now, again, I said this at the top. It's obvious that Seth Rollins is going to be winning this match. There's no way Finn Balor is winning. But this video package gave me the slightest chance and slightest idea that, hey, maybe Finn Balor could actually win this match. But, of course, the video package shows Finn Balor just cutting a promo on Seth Rollins and what he did to him at SummerSlam back in 2016. Finn Balor stated, "You want the guy that beat you 7 years ago. That guy is gone, and that guy is dead. This guy is worse." He says he got a lot better when he got bitter. SummerSlam 2016, and then he lists all of his injuries, like the torn labrum, all that stuff, and he still beat him. He could hardly raise his arm because, of course, he was the first Universal Champion in 24 hours. He was forced to relinquish the belt, and that's not where their problems were. My problem was what happened when I relinquished the title. You walked out and laughed in my face. The jealousy, That is something I will never forget. He says he got bitter. Nah, he made him bitter, and that bitterness is all he has now while he is alone. Seth frickin' Rollins, they worship the ground he walks on. The people worship the ground that he walks on because they sing his stupid song. But guess what? None of that matters. The only things that matters is vengeance and the World Heavyweight Championship. At Money in the Bank, after 7 years, after everything he took from him, the only song that he will hear is his name and his arm raised as the new World Heavyweight Champion. And that's a bitter pill for him to swallow. Very, very, very well produced video package by Finn Balor, by WWE. Immediately, this video package alone sold me on the match at Money in the Bank. Fantastic stuff. We need more of this type of shit in WWE, honestly. We need more of these types of video packages. Now, we had a Seth Rollins segment after this. So the crowd is singing Seth Rollins' song. And he says, Savannah, Georgia, welcome to Monday Night Rollins. Now, before we get cooking here tonight, we got a special guest. Put your hands together. The NXT champion himself, Carmelo Hayes. We got a bunch of NXT chants by the crowd. Melo, he doesn't do this often, but he had his back this past Tuesday, so he will say thank you. We got more in common. They were both fighting champions. Melo has a little title defense tomorrow night on NXT. Please whoop up on that bum ass Corbin. That's exactly what he said. As for him, this Saturday, he goes one-on-one with Finn Balor. A couple of weeks ago, he posed the question, which Finn will show up at Money in the Bank? And last week, he got his answer. Finn jumped him not once and followed him to NXT and tried to turn his ribs into dust. But here's the thing, Finn. I'm still standing. I am still standing. Money in the Bank is this Saturday. I'm tired of talking. Come out here and finish the job right now. And the crowd is singing his song. Y'all, he wishes, that singing will draw him out. But Finn ain't coming out, says Rollins. He had to hand it to him. He is the smartest he has ever been. He is the most dangerous he has ever been. And he surrounded himself with the right people. He tricked himself in thinking that his fate, that he will take back everything he took from him 7 years ago. And is he 100%, right? No, he isn't. Will it be 100%? No, he will not. But as good as Finn Balor is, there's one thing that isn't accounted for, and that is him. Because he promises when it's him and Finn, when the bell rings, the best version of Finn Balor isn't as good as the best version of Seth freaking Rollins. And that is a bitter pill that you will have to swallow, because he is the visionary, the revolutionary. He is Seth Rollins. And then Balor comes out from behind with the chair. Both men proceed to brawl. And after that, Rollins goes for a takedown, and he sends him to the outside. Balor then sends him to the steel steps, but then Balor drives him into the corner onto the announce table. Then we get repeated kicks by Balor, and then he faces off with Carmelo Hayes, in which he will be wrestling later on this show. And then Rollins takes him out, and then he chases him with the chair. Overall, I thought the video package and the segment with Seth Rollins was great. I think they will absolutely tear the house down in London on Saturday. Now, do I see Finn Balor winning the World Heavyweight title? No. I mean, it's obvious that Seth Rollins is going to be retaining because, of course, he just won that title a couple of weeks ago. And I don't think there's any way that, they're just going to cut short Seth Rollins' title reign for Finn Balor. But I will say, if they put the belt on Finn Balor, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Because, again, I feel like WWE is really working their way to kind of build Judgment Day as a top faction in the company. And if you really think about it, there is a ongoing story going on with Judgment Day right now that can definitely grow and grow and grow as the months go by. You got Finn Balor, of course, wrestling Seth Rollins. You also got Damian Priest competing in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And I stated earlier, there's only two guys that I see logically winning this match, and that is LA Knight or Logan Paul. And there's only one guy out of the two that I want to win, that is LA Knight. But Damian Priest is also in the Money in the Bank as well. And if you think about it, Damian Priest winning the Money in the Bank is not really too far-fetched, because they have been teasing some tension when it comes to Damian Priest and Finn Balor. You had that one backstage segment in which you had Finn Balor ask Damian Priest if he won the Money in the Bank, he wouldn't cash in on him, would he? Interesting stuff, man. Interesting developments. They could easily have Seth Rollins win, but I think that'd be the easy route. If they really, really, really wanted to test themselves, I think they'd easily put the belt on Finn Balor. That's what I see happening, but who knows, man? It could go either way, but most likely the logical reason, the most logical outcome is definitely Seth Rollins getting the win. That's my opinion. But this segment was great. We got a Tommaso Ciampa interview, and he talks about Miz and beating Miz last week. After that, we got the Miz versus Tommaso Ciampa. Miz attacks Ciampa when he makes his entrance, and then he sends him to the barricade. He drives his foot onto the apron, and then we get a running boot by Miz. Miz then goes for a suplex on Ciampa onto the barricade, but then Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale. Number one, why are we having the Miz versus Tommaso Ciampa again? I don't understand why. I mean, there's no reason as to why we should get this match once again, because of the fact that we saw it last week, and we had Tommaso Ciampa beat the Miz. We all know Tommaso Ciampa has a short history on the main roster with the Miz, but I mean, I don't want Tommaso Ciampa, with the caliber of the talent that he has, feud with the fucking Miz. That's just my opinion. But nobody gave a shit. We had Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser backstage, and they found out it's official. It's going to be Matt Riddle versus Gunther for the IC title at Money in the Bank. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens come in, and Kaiser says, keep walking. And then KO says they have a reason. And then Kaiser says, what's the reason? And then Kevin Owens is like to Sami, what was the reason we were going to say? And then after that, Kevin Owens just goes berserk every week. How can you do that to Matt Riddle? They will do something about it. And then he talks about how he should be careful with the words that he uses, because if he doesn't, the Ring General will teach him a lesson. And then after that, Kevin Owens goes ballistic like usual every week. He didn't learn anything. Sami handles it, and then Sami challenges Gunther one-on-one tonight. And Gunther says, just like his friend, he also wants to ride his coattail. Be my guest. After that, we got Dominik Mysterio in action. His opponent is Akira Tozowa. Dominik goes after Tozowa. Tozowa fights back. He hits repeated right hands, and then he takes down Tozowa. We then get a pump-up Hurricane Rana by Tozowa. He ends up hitting the Shining Wizard. And then after that, Tozowa goes to the top, and then he drops his elbow on Dominik. Dominik goes to the outside. Tozowa goes for the Tope Suicida, but then he takes Dominik back onto the apron. Rhea Ripley, who is on the outside, distracts Tozowa. Dominik comes in. Then Dominik goes to the top, and then Dominik goes for the frog splash. We get a cover, and Dominik wins the match. Great. Whatever. The Viking Raiders. We got a video package on the Viking Raiders. A tag team, unfortunately, I do not give a single shit about either. I feel like in my opinion, they are absolutely directionless. Let's be honest. The Viking Raiders are absolutely directionless right now. We got the Money in the Bank women's segment, or I should say the Money in the Bank or the Women's Money in the Bank Summit segment. Bayley interrupts Corey Graves, who is in the ring, and says she is the only one that won the Money in the Bank. She possibly has the biggest chance, or Io. And then Io proceeds to speak in Japanese, and she says, may the best woman win. Zelina then says she is so sick of Damage Control dismissing everyone. We have Becky Lynch, someone who she respects. She's done it all except win Money in the Bank. We have Zoe, the groupie. Then we have Trish Stratus, a legend, but a legend who's never been in a ladder match. Then when you have her, of course, the future Miss Money in the Bank, Zelina threatens her after that with the chancla, and then she talks about how she will prove them all when Santos and her will win Money in the Bank and bring it to the LWO. After that, Bayley and Io, Bayley and Io proceed to speak, but then Zoe Starks interrupts, and Trish says she sees a bunch of little girls. And it's very clear what they needed her to, why they needed her to save the women's division, because she isn't a little girl. She is a woman, the best and greatest to ever do this. Zelina says she's right, but it is her first ladder match. And by winning is what she does, and when she makes history and grabs that contract. But guess what? They can all say thank you, Trish, for being a part of an historic moment. And then she points to Becky Lynch. She can't really call her a little girl or woman because she is the man. And she asks her this: when it's all said and done, will she be man enough to say, thank you, Trish? I can't bear reading all this shit. Number one, my notes are ass. But number two, the segment was just so fucking bad. Just Trish speaking, man. I love Trish. I love Trish Stratus. But she sucks on the microphone. I don't like this current character that they're doing with Trish Stratus. I just don't. It fucking sucks. It really does. My notes are terrible, too. Becky replies and hits her right hand. A brawl breaks loose, and then Bayley gets taken out to the outside. Io then hits a dropkick on Zelina. Io and Becky fight it out, and then Io goes for the springboard moonsault on the outside. And then Becky centers the ladder, and then she proceeds to climb the ladder and holds the briefcase. Does this get me excited for the women's Money in the Bank? No. There's only one logical answer as to who should win the Money in the Bank. It's not Zelina. It's not Becky. It's not Trish. It's not Bayley. It's Io. Io should be the only woman that should win this fucking match, period. Because I talked about this for months now. Damage Control is a failed experiment, okay? If you think about it, Damage Control is a failed experiment, and there's just no direction whatsoever for Damage Control. Absolutely no direction. I'm not the biggest fan of the character work that Bayley is really doing now. I mean, if anything, I kind of miss her old gimmick, the hugger gimmick. And Bayley, to me, now is kind of cringe on the microphone. And that is not to say she's terrible. I think she's great at what she does. I just feel like she kind of comes off as a little bit cringe on the microphone. Don't get me started with Trish Stratus. But Io should be the one to win Money in the Bank. And she should be the one to break away from Damage Control and go on her own. That is what I see happening. After that, we got Carmelo Hayes backstage. Talks about how it's his first Raw and he finds himself wrestling Finn Balor. Seth Rollins invited him, and since we're talking about the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, you know what an honor it is? Seth isn't someone who Seth is someone who he aspires to be, but a champion he aspires. He will take care of Finn Balor tonight, and sometimes guys like him and Seth, you got to take shots to make shots, and tonight he don't miss. After that, Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley are backstage. Rhea threatens Becky and says she better not hope she doesn't win the Money in the Bank. If she thinks she's going to cash in on her, it will be the last thing that she will ever do. And then Becky says when she was the champion, she became a main event side piece. Now she wants to win the briefcase just to watch her squirm. I mean, what truer words that Becky Lynch said. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Rhea Ripley's title reign, what is her title reign? It's really nothing right now. They're doing nothing with Rhea Ripley's title reign. It sucks because I actually really like what they're doing with Rhea Ripley. You know, when it comes to the dynamic that she has a part of Judgment Day, and of course the dynamic that she has with Dominik. But let's be real here. Her title reign itself is just not working. After that, we got Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens is on commentary. You gotta love Kevin Owens being on commentary. We get a side headlock takeover by Gunther on Sami. Then we get a second side headlock takeover by Gunther. We get a second shoulder tackle by Gunther, and then we get a third side headlock takeover. After that, we get a bunch of ole, ole, ole singing by the crowd. After that, we get a deep arm drag by Sami. We get an uppercut by Gunther into the corner, but then Gunther misses the chop. After that, Sami hits a chop of his own. Sami gets taken into the corner, and then we get a back elbow by Sami. Sami's in control. Sami goes for repeated right hand attempts. Giovanni Vinci comes back. He comes back, but he's walking with crutches. Then we get a leapfrog attempt by Sami getting caught by Gunther. After that, Gunther goes for a release German suplex. Once we're back from commercial break, Gunther hits a chop on Sami. We then get an uppercut by Gunther, and then Sami watches Gunther, and then he wants to go for the exploder, but then Gunther fights back. Gunther then catches Sami, and he goes for a big overhand chop onto the chest of Sami Zayn. We then get a chop into the corner by Gunther, and then he goes for another chop. After that, Gunther looks at Kevin Owens, but then Sami Zayn ends up going for a boot. Sami goes for repeated boots onto the face. At this point, Sami's on the top, but then Gunther comes in and hits another chop. Gunther goes to the top, but then Sami tries to fight off Gunther, but then Sami goes for repeated shots on Gunther fighting back. We then get a sunset flip powerbomb by Sami Zayn, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Sami goes for repeated right hands on Gunther, but then Gunther goes for an uppercut. At this point, both men go for a series of exchanges. Gunther is still up on his feet. Sami actually succeeds in going for the leapfrog, and then he ends up hitting Gunther with a furious lariat. After that, Gunther escapes, and he goes for the Blue Thunder Bomb, but Gunther escapes it. Gunther then applies the sleeper on Sami. I think I kind of messed up that last line. Forgive me right there. Sami gets up and hits the Blue Thunder Bomb after Gunther applied the sleeper. Then we get a cover by Sami and a near fall. Sami Zayn goes to the top, and then he falls into a chop. We then get a cover by Gunther and a near fall. He proceeds to drive his knee on Sami, but then Gunther goes to the top. He ends up hitting the splash after that. After the splash, Sami goes for the cover, and we get another near fall. After that, Kaiser is on the apron, but then what happens is Kevin Owens comes in from commentary and takes out Kaiser, but then Gunther hits a boot on Kevin Owens. Sami ends up going for a somersault on the outside. He proceeds to take Gunther back into the ring. Sami ends up going for the exploder suplex in the corner, but the referee is distracted. Giovanni Vinci from behind hits him with the crutch. Gunther ends up going for the powerbomb, and we get a cover, and Gunther wins the match. Kevin Owens goes after Kaiser and Gunther. Matt Riddle comes out for the save, but then he runs into the ring limping with his ankle. He hits Vinci with the crutch. He hits Gunther repeatedly. Kevin Owens goes for the stunner on Kaiser, and the baby faces stand tall. This was a phenomenal match with Gunther and Sami Zayn. I really loved this whole match. It sucks though that Sami lost the match, but I mean, if you look at it from a logic perspective, I mean, Gunther losing is a big no-no nowadays if you're booking a guy like Gunther. So it made total sense for Gunther to win, and yes, there was some interference. So honestly, it kind of didn't make Sami Zayn look weak, but still, phenomenal match by both Sami Zayn and Gunther. After that, we get a really well-done video package on Carmelo Hayes, for those that do not know who Carmelo Hayes is. After that, Natalya is in a backstage interview. She's asked where her emotions were after the attack that she had on Rhea Ripley last week. She talks about how she signed for this life, and Rhea's a part of that. The biggest battle she faced is, her head, the fear of losing. But she's been broken down and she's been shaking, but she is still here. She would bring Rhea back to her title next week, and there's not a single woman that has achieved what she's achieved. So it looks like they're going to be booking Rhea Ripley versus Natalya once again for like the third fucking time. I swear to God, nobody asked for this feud. Nobody asked for Natalya versus Rhea Ripley. Again, I stress this enough. Natalya is just, she's completely irrelevant in 2023. Nobody watches WWE for Natalya. Number 2, Rhea Ripley's title reign has been a train wreck ever since she won it at WrestleMania. And it's not Rhea Ripley's fault. Because again, I love the dynamic that she has with Judgment Day and as well as Dominik Mysterio. I think what they are doing with Rhea Ripley in that department is great. But when it comes to her title reign itself, there's absolutely no direction when it comes to her title reign. There's no investment when it comes to Rhea Ripley's title reign, in my opinion. I don't want to see Rhea Ripley feud with Natalya. I think that's completely irrelevant, in my opinion. After that, we got Finn Balor versus Carmelo Hayes, who is the current NXT champion. This was a relatively short match, but I will say they showcased Carmelo Hayes very well. Now, there was a lot of mixed reactions on what people thought about this whole match when it came to Finn Balor and Carmelo Hayes. And I'll talk about this after I go through the whole match. We got a takedown by Finn. Finn goes for repeated rights, and then he stomps after Carmelo. And then after that, we get a chop by Balor, but then Balor's in control. We get a drop kick by Carmelo, and then we get a kick to the back of Finn. Carmelo ends up hitting the fadeaway, which is basically a springboard backward leg drop. A backward springboard leg drop. That's what it basically is. He takes out Finn on the outside. And once we're back from commercial break, Balor goes for a chop into the corner. Then we get a chop again onto the other corner by Balor. We then get a back elbow by Melo. After that, he misses the crossbody, but then Carmelo fights back. He ends up hitting a clothesline, but then we get a springboard takedown by Melo on Balor. And then we get a cover end near fall, but then Melo runs into a lariat by Finn Balor. He ends up hitting a kick on Melo onto his midsection. And then he hits repeated stomps on Carmelo Hayes. After that, he hits a sling blade. Balor runs into a thrust kick. And then Melo goes for and hits a springboard DDT. It was like a springboard reverse DDT. It looked pretty dope. We get a cover end near fall. Melo rolls through, but then Balor picks him up. Melo escapes, but then Melo goes for the roll-up, and then we get a near fall. Balor proceeds to pick him up, but then Balor goes for the gut buster. He ends up hitting the shotgun dropkick, and then Balor goes to the top, and then we get a cover. And actually, no, he goes for the coup de grace and cover, and Finn Balor wins the match. Overall, man, there's pros and cons to booking this match. The pros are, of course, you made Finn Balor look strong. I think we can all agree the biggest, Finn Balor winning was the right decision to make. But at the same time, Carmelo is the NXT champion. Now, I do not watch NXT, so honestly, it doesn't really bother me as a lot of other people. But even if I did watch NXT, I would have a problem with Carmelo Hayes losing. But at the same time, Finn Balor needed to win this match. The only solution that I could see WWE doing is honestly, just if you think about it, just don't book the match with Carmelo Hayes and really just book him in a match against somebody else instead of Finn Balor. Because I talked about it earlier on this review. The video package that WWE aired of Finn Balor talking about SummerSlam 2016 immediately sold me on the match. You didn't really need Finn Balor to wrestle on this show to really sell me what Finn Balor is capable of in the match against Seth Rollins. I think the video package alone sold me on that idea. But Finn Balor winning this match makes sense because you're not going to make him look stupid going into a match with Seth Rollins on Saturday night. But at the same time, Carmelo Hayes shouldn't have lost this match, even though it doesn't make sense, because of the fact he is the NXT champion and because he was going into a match with Baron Corbin the next night, and it'd make him look dumb. But one thing I will say is that they showcased Carmelo Hayes very well. Is Carmelo Hayes buried? Absolutely not. He is nowhere near buried. If anybody tells you that Carmelo Hayes is buried, they're clearly lying to your face because they do not know what a burial is. Just because a guy loses a match, and it can literally be any match, doesn't mean the guy is buried. If they lost a match in dumb fashion, and I'll give you guys an example, Karrion Kross versus Jeff Hardy 2 years ago when he was the NXT champion. You guys remember, and this was before the NXT 2.0 rebrand, Karrion Kross was the NXT champion. And what happened was that he came in a match against Jeff Hardy and literally lost in like less than 5 minutes. That was the most Vince McMahon type of booking I've ever seen in my entire life. That is the definition of a burial, because on NXT, that was on the same network as Raw, Karrion Kross was on a dominant run. But then all of a sudden, if you look towards the Raw show, which by the way is on the same network as NXT, Kross it just looks absolutely stupid. This was not the case with Finn Balor and Carmelo Hayes. Absolutely not. Would I have liked Carmelo Hayes to get the win? Yes. But creatively, it doesn't make any sense because Finn Balor is the challenger of Seth Rollins going into Money in the Bank, and you need to make him look strong if he's going to lose this match. That's what I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there's pros and cons to the booking of this match. The best solution is don't book the match. If you want to book Carmelo Hayes in a match that you want to have him win, don't book him in a match against Finn Balor, because the video package that you aired on Finn Balor already sold me on the match at Money in the Bank. Period. That's all I'm going to say about that. Cody Rhodes backstage with his husky, Pharaoh. I have a husky myself. Pharaoh is such a cute dog. Damian Priest is walking, talks about how he's walking in the Money in the Bank with bruises in his ego. And Dominik, he wishes he can, sit down and boo with the fans, but those cheap shots have worked. At Money in the Bank, Dominik isn't going to have Finn Balor, he's going to have Rhea or Damian Priest, and he hasn't played a finger on Dirty Dom. So we're going to be finding out, what does Dominik Mysterio have? After that, we got Cody Rhodes taking on Damian Priest. I said Damian. It's Damian. Taking on Damian Priest in the main event. This was not a bad match whatsoever. I liked the match. Was it, the best Cody match I've ever seen? No, but it was not a bad match. Usually when it comes to Raw main events, I could care less, but I will say the past couple of weeks, I felt like the Raw main events were actually pretty good. But let's go through the match. Both lock up. We get a side headlock by Priest. He then ends up hitting a shoulder tackle. We then get a side headlock by Cody. And then we get a shoulder tackle blocked by Priest. And then Priest takes out Cody. Both block each other with a series of hip tosses. And then they go for a series of backslides. After that, we get a back elbow by Priest. And then Cody goes for the dropkick. Cody hits a right on Priest. And then he proceeds to target the arm of Damian Priest. Cody goes for repeated rights, but then Priest picks him up and drives on the right hand of Cody. He then hits a series of right hands and stomps in the corner. After that, he sends Cody into the corner. We get a back elbow by Priest. Priest picks up... Actually, no. Cody picks up Priest, and he drops him down face first. Rhea and Dominik come out. We get a kick by Priest on the apron. Priest then drags Cody to the post, but then Cody pulls Priest onto the post. Then Cody goes for a tope on the outside. Dominik is on the outside. Rhea proceeds to block Dominik from protecting her dom-dom. Then Cody is back in the ring, and he gets flatlined by Priest. Once we're back from break, Priest goes for the broken arrow. We get a cover by Priest and a near fall. Cody fights back, and then Priest flattens Cody down to the mat. Priest goes for a lariat, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Priest goes to the top, then Cody goes to the top as well and throws him down. We then get a series of right-hand exchanges by both. We then get a kick by Priest, and then we get repeated right hands once again by Cody, and he goes for those dusty punches. So, of course, those repeated rights and then the elbow. After that, we get the power slam by Cody. Cody goes for the disaster kick, and then we get a series of right hands by Cody. We then get an elbow by Cody, and then we get a cover by Cody and a near fall. Cody then tries to apply the figure four. Priest escapes. Priest then hits a headlock driver on Cody. We get a cover and a near fall. Priest takes Cody for the chokeslam attempt, but Cody escapes. Cody tries to go for a crossroads, but then, of course, Cody later on hits a kick. He ends up hitting the pedigree on Damian Priest. Priest rolls to the outside, but then Cody goes to the top. Priest rolls back in. He runs into a pump kick. Priest goes for the cover, and we get a near fall. After that, we get a right hand by Cody. Priest lands into the corner, but then Cody ends up hitting a thrust kick. He ends up hitting a disaster kick, but Damian Priest takes him down. Priest goes for the South of Heaven, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Priest then proceeds to pick up Cody for the Razor's Edge, but then Dominik is on the apron. Priest accidentally knocks Dominik down to the outside. Cody catches Damian Priest and goes for the Cody Cutter, and then he ends up hitting the Crossroads, and we get a cover, and Cody Rhodes wins the match. After the match, Dominik goes for a cheap shot on Cody, and Dominik runs to the outside with Judgment Day. And the show ends. Overall, this was not a bad match. Of course, Damian Priest is going to be a part of the Money in the Bank ladder match. Cody Rhodes is going to be wrestling Dominik. So really, the whole thing about this Raw show was Judgment Day. Judgment Day, if you really think about it, was kind of all over this show. And that's how I like it. Raw should be the Judgment Day show. If you're not going to have the Bloodline involved, Judgment Day could be your best replacement. But it's going to be very interesting as we head towards Money in the Bank, since, of course, Judgment Day are on high-key profile matches. Of course, we got Dominik versus Cody Rhodes. We got Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. And we got Damian Priest being a part of the Money in the Bank. Do I see, any of the members of Judgment Day winning their matches? Yeah, I do. Dominik could be winning his match against Cody. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Most likely there's going to be some involvement with Brock Lesnar. Damian Priest, he could be a contender on winning the Money in the Bank ladder match. And if you really think about it, there is a story told with Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And WWE is clearly telling the story of Damian Priest getting excommunicated from the Judgment Day. Now, they didn't really tell a lot about that story on this show, but in the previous weeks they have. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but Money in the Bank is going to be an interesting night for the Judgment Day. But yeah, that was my Raw review from June 26, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys for AEW Dynamite. And, of course, we got SmackDown and Collision and Money in the Bank. So I'll see you guys later.